Hello everybody and welcome to Tiger Tales One Shot, a place you'll find one-off storylines written and read to you by your host, me, Tai Tiger. Today we're diving into Task Force Hojo, a group of Power Rangers built from multiple universes and was built to defend the multiverse. Each ranger has their own unique storyline, and I'm using these one-off stories to explain each individual ranger's one-off story. So here we have Chad, who ended up going to Wakanda and becoming a Power Ranger. So, let's dive in. Power Rangers, a spirit of Wakanda. Chad stood there in the city hall with the rest of the advanced technology students, each one next to their stalls. Each stall had their brand new invention stood upon it. Each student stood there nervous, waiting for the elderly Queen Shuri to arrive and judge each invention and crown one of them the Advanced Tech Wakanda program. This allowed the winner to move to Wakanda for 4 years and study under the best of the best technological minds of Wakanda, including Queen Shuri herself. Chad stood there wearing a black shirt unbuttoned and a white top underneath, with brown combat trousers, and his short, shaggy black hair just covered his hazel eyes. Chad stood there looking around when suddenly the doors opened and two of the Dora Milaje led the Queen of Wakanda into the hall. Shuri walked in with gorgeous silver hair and a black dress and a huge headpiece which resembled a peacock tail. Her white hair gracefully flowed down her back, and she walked up to the first stall and the student presented their invention. Then Shuri walked around the stalls. One by one, each student had their go to present their inventions. And then last but not least, it was Chad's turn. "Hello there, young man," Queen Shuri said with a firm but gentle smile. "Hello there, your majesty. My name is Chad," Chad said in return. "Nice to meet you," Shuri replied. "Same to you," Chad said with a slight bow. "Please, tell us what do we have here," Shuri told him. Chad turned to the table and picked up his gloved arm guards and strapped them over his forearms. He then turned to show the Queen. "It is now well-known information that the Power Rangers tap into an unseen powerful source known as the Morphing Grid. I studied at the Paishwa Academy for several years under Master Fant before his passing and learned how to channel a few animal spirits. The Academy once birthed the Power Rangers Jungle Fury and Arctic Fury, who managed to channel their animal spirits to become Power Rangers, formed weapons, and summon mighty powerful Zords," Chad explained. "Yes, we are aware of this. What does these arm guards have to do with it?" Shuri asked curiously. "Well, I managed to connect to said Morphing Grid, but I have had a stopping point. So far, I've managed to channel the Morphing Grid through these arm guards," Chad explained. "Ooh, I would love to see," Shuri said. Chad then placed one of his fists into his palm, then pressed down on the knuckles of the arm guards. He then drew his hands to his chest and then threw his palms forward, and a spark of the grid energy burst from his palm. "You actually managed to tap into the Morphing Grid," Shuri said, slightly impressed. "Yes, I have," Chad confirmed. "So, one question I have asked all of these students is, what are you hoping to achieve if you are granted the Wakanda Program Award?" the Queen asked. "I would use vibranium resources to enhance the performance of the arm guards, and then use the history of the legendary Black Panther to tap into the spiritual realm and see if I can make Wakanda's first Power Ranger, and replace the mantle of Black Panther, leaving the legacy to rest and giving Wakanda a new hero to look to," Chad explained with a firm stance. "Wow, well, thank you for your time, Chad," the Queen said, then she walked away. "Thank you, Your Majesty," Chad replied, again bowing. A few hours went by and the Queen returned to the hall. She stood in front of the microphone and spoke. "Hello students, family members, faculty members. Today I saw 12 inventions from around the world, and now I'm going to grant someone the Wakanda Grant Award, and our winner is," the Queen said. Chad stood there, his palms shaking, his brow sweaty, and he swallowed hard. "Our winner is the creation of the Morphing Grid arm guards." "Chad!" the Queen called out. The whole room clapped and cheered, and Chad walked up to the Queen with a huge smile on his face. He shook her hand and smiled at the camera as it flashed. 1 year later, Chad sat in the laboratory with a pair of goggles on as he was lining up some wires and welding them into place, and suddenly the door opened and the Queen walked into the laboratory. "Hello, Chad," Shuri said. Chad removed his goggles and turned to the Queen. "Hello, Your Majesty," Chad replied. "Please, for the last time, I've said this. My name is Shuri, and you address me so," Shuri commanded. Yes, Shuri," Chad grinned. How's it going? Shuri asked. I finally have mastered the arts of fusing vibranium and morphing grid energy together, so that's actually helped me out a lot. Chad explained. Brilliant news, Shuri cheered. How come you're here tonight? It's rather late, Chad asked. I've been working on something and I cannot wait to show you, Shuri told him. Okay, you're the queen. How have you had time to work on something? Chad asked. I may be the queen, but nothing stops me from dusting off the old laboratory sometimes. Shuri grinned. She placed a small silver chip on the table and a hologram appeared. It showed off the 2 vibranium gauntlets. They were panther-like weapons made of vibranium and able to fire sonic blasts, and used by Shuri back when she was younger to help her older brother, who was king and Black Panther at the time. Wow, you reinstated the vibranium gauntlets, Chad said in shock. Not only reinstated, but I also made it so they would be powered by an outside source, Shuri explained. Wait, what? Chad blurted. You still need your gauntlet weapon, right? Shuri asked. Yeah, Chad chirped. Shuri picked up the small silver chip and the hologram disappeared, and she handed it to Chad. Chad took it from her, and with the biggest grin on his face, he placed the chip into one of the arm guards and it locked it in. Then he switched on the device and the chip lit up. It worked! It's reinstated! Oh my god! Chad cheered. I'm so pleased, Shuri grinned. Chad started tinkering with the arm guards with a screwdriver. So, why arm guards? Why not something more stylish, like a necklace or a ring or glasses maybe? Shuri asked. That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard, Chad chuckled. He decided not to tell her that the Jungle Fear Rangers had glasses for morphers, and they got mocked for it quite a lot. Can I ask you something? Chad asked. Of course, Shuri replied. Why did you pick me? Chad asked with a smile. Shuri leaned back and sat firmly. When I asked you what you wanted to achieve here, you were the only person who answered with Wakanda in mind. You thought of Wakanda's safety. Everyone else had said to me that they were happy to work with me, or they wanted to read the books in the library, or they wanted to experience Wakanda for themselves. Your answer was completely selfless, Shuri explained. Yeah, alright, fair enough, Chad said with a slight nod. Then he looked at his watch and picked up the TV remote and clicked on the TV. The news appeared on screen. The South Barrier is still in breach as the Jabari tribe camps on the outside of the city. They threatened to attack. A few weeks ago, we lost M'Baku, and his son was supposed to take over, but instead, he had a new comer take the mantle. Since then, the Jabari tribe has lashed out, saying the Queen doesn't take them seriously, and wants to take the throne for themselves. The Queen has not taken action, nor has given a statement, the news reporter announced. Chad turned to the Queen. You haven't given a response about that yet? Chad asked. I can no longer handle the power of Black Panther in my old age, and there is no way I can make another. I have the Dorj Malage, but I can only need them to stay close to the city. We have become peaceful. The world accepted Wakanda almost 40 years ago. Maybe we can become peaceful with them too, Shuri sighed. Do we have the power to back up if they break the barrier? Chad asked. I do not know, Shuri replied. Shuri left the lab and Chad was alone. Chad sat there and thought about the Jabari tribe threatening Wakanda, and it kept racking his mind. He had fallen in love with the city, the people, the food, the culture, and the love that it gives. He wanted to protect it. His goal to make a new guardian for Wakanda had not changed. He looked at the armed guards and thought about his training from the academy, and he could handle the Jabari tribe. He thought about it to himself. He grabbed the armed guard morphers and left the laboratory. He left the building, left the city, and headed down to the south side of Wakanda. He walked down the field and saw the shimmer that was the blue barrier. On the other side of it was tents and a few fireplaces. Chad walked up to the barrier and whistled, capturing the attention of 2 of the tribe warriors. They both walked up to the barrier. Bring me your leader, Chad ordered. The warriors looked at each other confused and slowly turned away from Chad and walked into one of the tents. Then, a few moments later, a bulky man walked out and walked up to the barrier. You request my attention? The leader barked. I demand you leave and rethink your actions, Chad said, his voice shaking in his throat. I, Bakoye, will do no such thing, the tribe leader barked back. Then you leave me no choice, Chad muttered. He then placed his fist against his opposing palm and pressed the 3 buttons on the knuckles of Armguard. He then pointed his hands close to his chest and then threw his palms out, and a burst of green energy burst from his palm and hit the barrier. The impact cracked the barrier slightly, and the cracks glowed green. Was that meant to do something? Bakoye asked. Chad stood there stunned. No, why didn't this work? I've worked on the tech. I managed to learn the spirit of the Black Panther. Come on, Chad said in panic. You're a fool. You can't even work on a thing that you built, Bakoye chuckled. Then he snapped his fingers and one of his warriors presented him with a box. He opened the box to reveal a small purple fruit. Bakoye picked it up and held it up in the air. This fruit was presented to me by the rulers of the underworld. With its power, I will become something so strong, so indestructible, and very powerful. Bakoye grinned. He then placed the small fruit in his mouth and he started chewing it. He swallowed hard and then everything around him, including Chad, stood there and watched for a moment. For a minute, it seemed like nothing happened. Then suddenly, a burst of black energy erupted from Bakoye and it formed around him, changing him into a hideous monster. He was all black, with plates of armor surrounding his body. His head looked like a metal vulture, and his arms now had long blades coming from his forearms. He stood there laughing. Chad looked at it in shock as Bakoye walked up to the crack. Now let's see what happens when I strike it with my new power, Bakoye growled. He took a couple of steps back and he lifted up his arms, making his blade cross over. Then both blades started glowing purple. He threw his arms down and the purple energy flew at the barrier with small explosions. The barrier started to break. The shockwave that hit the barrier also knocked Chad onto his back. Chad slowly climbed to his feet as he watched Bakoye raise his hand. Warriors, I bless this entryway with my power. If you so choose it, then walk through. Enter Wakanda as my army, imbued with the powers of the underworld, he called out. One of his warriors slowly walked through the barrier. As he did, small black wisps entered his body, and in a flash of purple, he transformed into a black monster as well, this one less intimidating. He looked similar to Bakoye, but lacked the blades and the vulture head. His spear had been changed into a black and purple, and was now covered in spikes. Then, as the warrior advanced, Chad took several steps back, and the warrior demon walked past Chad, ignoring his existence completely. Bakoye followed, walking up with Chad. Stay down, boy. Wakanda's mine, Bakoye growled. As he spoke, more warriors walked through the blessed crack in the barrier and were also turned into monsters. Chad took a deep breath and remembered his Peshwa training. He then glided his foot across the floor and took his fighting stance. Please. You're kidding me, right? Bakoye chuckled. Chad threw several jabs at Bakoye, but he just stood there and took the hits. Bakoye then swung his arm, the tip of the blade glowing purple, slashing Chad. The attack sending him flying across the field, crashing into the ground, mud exploding up as he hit the floor. Chad tried to stand, but in a blur, Bakoye bolted to him and stamped on his chest, forcing him back onto the ground. Chad cried out in pain. Stay down! You cannot stop the inevitable. The sun will not rise on Wakanda tomorrow, Bakoye roared. Then he walked away and led his underworld army into Wakanda. Chad tried to fight, but everything went dark. Chad opened his eyes to see a field of beauty. A tall tree stood next to him, and it was covered in panthers. The cats just stared at him. He bolted to his feet and looked around. He saw the field, but it just kept on going, and the sky was bright and blue. Where am I? Chad asked out loud. You're in the spiritual plane, a voice said. Chad looked around and suddenly two of the panthers jumped off the trees and shifted into two men. Whoa! Chad gasped. Hello, Chad. I'm T'Chaka. This is my son, T'Challa, the older one said. You're the past kings of Wakanda. Oh crap, am I dead? Chad asked. Not yet, T'Chaka said. Wait, so what's going on? Chad asked. When you started working on my sister, a wise Peshwa master came to us and told us about the morphing grid. T'Challa told him. Master Fant, Chad whispered with a small grin. He was very fond of you, and told us you may need our help one day. Today is that day, T'Chaka said firmly. You're talking about Bakoye and his new demonic army, right? Chad asked. Yes, he has tapped into a power that mere vibranium will not handle, T'Challa told him. But maybe if we fuse the spiritual power of the morphing grid and the technological power of vibranium, maybe you could beat him, T'Chaka said. Yeah, I tried doing that. I built the gauntlets, and I channeled the morphing grid of the spirit of a Black Panther in the vibranium arm guards, but it failed, Chad told them, looking at the floor. You must match the power of vibranium if you're going to wield it, T'Chaka replied. I did. I used the spirit of the Black Panther, Chad snapped. Maybe you were using the wrong type of Black Panther. T'Challa grinned. Then both T'Challa and T'Chaka crossed their arms in an X formation over their chest, and it was a sign of respect in Wakanda. Then suddenly both of them suited up in their Black Panther suits. Whoa, Chad gasped. Then, one by one, the rest of the Black Panther cats jumped off their tree and morphed into human form, each one crossing their arms and their suits wrapping around them. Okay, this is kinda cool, Chad grinned. If you focus on Okoye and beat him, then his army will fade too, T'Challa told him, and the sun will rise on Wakanda once more, T'Chaka said. Chad took a deep breath and nodded. Chad then woke up, climbed to his feet. The air was now thick and smoky. He looked at the city. Buildings were on fire and the sirens filled the air. Chad wiped blood from his lip and then started making his way to the city. Back in the royal throne room, Okoye slashed down two more Dora Milaje, then kicked another one, sending her across the room and crashing into one of the chairs. Aren't you going to fight me, your majesty? Okoye asked Shuri, who was on her knees, tears slowly sliding down her cheek. I cannot use the power of the Black Panther anymore. I am helpless, Shuri replied. Okoye grabbed her by her hair and dragged her to the big window and propped her in front of it. Look, your majesty, your once proud Wakanda, your house of Black Panther, sleeping in darkness, Okoye laughed. Suddenly one of his goons came smashing through the double doors and hit the floor. Chad then walked in. You, Okoye called out. Let go of the queen, Chad commanded. If it means I get to destroy you, gladly, Okoye sneered. Then he let go of Shuri. Chad then placed one of his fists in the opposing palm. You did that, remember? And that's how I'm here. You let me in, Okoye barked. I made some new friends since then, Chad replied. Why are you helping them? You're not even from Wakanda, Okoye asked. It's not the place that makes Wakanda. It's the people, Chad grinned. He then pressed 3 buttons on the knuckles of the arm guards, and then he threw his hands out over sides. Warrior of the Savannah, Chad called out, and then he crossed his arms across his chest. Wakanda forever, Chad called out. Then a burst of energy rippled from Chad, and several spirits appeared. All of them were different Black Panthers from the past, all suited up and geared to go, apart from 2 which Shuri instantly recognized. Brother! Father! Shuri called out. Both men smiled at Shuri, then they suited up in their Black Panther suits, crossing their arms over their chests, their vibranium claws extended. Then one by one each spirit was absorbed into Chad's body, then lastly T'Chaka and T'Challa fused into Chad as well. In a flash of black, Chad stood there as the Black Panther Wakanda Ranger. What the hell? Okoye snapped. Time to finish this, the Black Panther Ranger barked. He stood there. His suit resembled the Jungle Fury Power Ranger Master Mode suit. His suit was black and grey with yellow and blue highlights throughout it. His forearms were armoured with Shuri's vibranium gauntlets. The head of the Black Panther had opened and folded back, revealing his hands. Black Panther Wakanda Ranger, the Black Panther Wakanda Ranger called out. Okoye slashed his blades down, sending 2 powerful energy waves at the Black Panther Ranger. He rolled to one side, then he got up and lunged into a cartwheel, dodging both attacks. Then he ran at Okoye, throwing 2 punches, striking Okoye's chest. He then jumped up and kicked off the window, using the momentum to swing his foot at Okoye's chest, making the demon stumble backwards. Damn you, warriors, attack! Okoye roared, and the remaining soldiers jumped in front of Okoye, defending him. The Black Panther held his hands out, and the Black Panther gauntlets folded around his hands, and the mouths closing slightly, now looking like a roaring Black Panther. Sonic Panther gauntlets, online! The Black Panther Ranger called out. One warrior swung a club at the Black Panther Ranger. He jumped back and dodged the attack, and punched the warrior in the chest, the gauntlet sending a sonic wave pulsing through the warrior as he punched it. The punch sent him knocking off his feet, its whole body flipping backwards as it slammed on the floor. Then the mouthpiece of the gauntlet glowed blue, and the Black Panther Ranger shot several sonic blasts at the second warrior. Each shot hit the warrior in the chest, then held out both the gauntlets and charged the gauntlets up, and he shot a double blast which hit the warrior and sent him flying across the throne room. Then the Black Panther turned to Okoye. I am the ruler of Wakanda, Okoye screamed. He jumped at the Black Panther Ranger. He dived back at Okoye and jumped up and slammed his blades on the floor. Okoye then sent several energy waves bulleting towards the Black Panther Ranger, he rolled to one side and returned the attack with 2 sonic blasts that hit Bakoye, who stumbled backwards. Then he charged one of the gauntlets up and dived at Bakoye. He hit the demon in the chest, sending him flying back into the wall-sized window, the glass cracking under the impact. Then the Black Panther Ranger punched him again and again and again. The punches became a flurry of blurry punches. Then he swiped his foot across Bakoye's legs, knocking him to his knees. Then he spun around and kicked him in the chest, booting him through the window, the glass shattering. Bakoye then fell from the throne room, falling from the highest point of the city. The Black Panther Ranger then dived out the window, falling after Bakoye, who was screaming out in rage, sending energy waves flying at the Black Panther Ranger, who swerved to the left, then the right, dodging the attacks. Then he shot several energy sonic blasts, all hitting Bakoye. Then his gauntlets folded back and he triggered his armed guard morpher, and then he threw his hands out. "Wakanda Defender, final strike!" the Black Panther Ranger called out. Then the spirit of T'Challa and T'Chaka appeared, still in their superhero suits. They both threw at Bakoye. T'Chaka swung his claws, striking the demon, and then pushed off of him. T'Challa flew past him, spun around, and smashed his foot into his stomach. Then both spirits grabbed onto the arms of Bakoye, holding him in place as they plummeted down. The 2 spirits and Bakoye crashed into the ground. The concrete exploded underneath them due to the impact. Then the Black Panther Ranger summoned his gauntlets once more and charged them up. The second before he crashed into Bakoye, he threw out his arms, and a devastating sonic blast erupted from his gauntlets, striking Bakoye. The Black Panther Ranger landed safely. The 2 spirits looked up and climbed to their feet, and then they looked at each other, bowed at the Ranger, and then disappeared, the energy channeling back into the Black Panther Ranger. Bakoye laid there grunting in pain when suddenly the monster evaporated into black mist, leaving the human in the crater in the ground unconscious. "Power down," the Ranger called out. Then he demorphed. Chad looked at Bakoye, then turned to the tower entrance to see the Queen running out of the door. "Chad, are you okay?" the Queen called out. "I am." "Are you?" Chad asked as he walked up to her. "I am all thanks to you," Shuri replied. It was nothing." Chad grinned. "Is Bakoye," Shuri stated, "alive, just maybe not mobile for a while?" Chad said. Shuri looked down at the young man stood before her. "I think we have found our new protector." Shuri grinned. "Wait, me? You sure?" Chad asked behind a huge smile. "Of course." "You spoke to them, didn't you?" Shuri asked. "Oh, you mean your dad and your brother? Yeah, they're proud of you. Actually, all of them are," Chad replied. Shuri wiped a tear from her face. Then she looked across the sky to see the sun rise. "A new day," Shuri stated. "Yeah," Chad chuckled. Both of them stood there watching the sun rise over the city. "I don't think Bakoye is the end of it. I think there is more out there, and I think there is even more danger. I don't know about you, but I think they're all going to be Power Ranger related," Chad said, not breaking his gaze. "Well, Wakanda is your home. You come and go as you please. You'll always have a home here," Shuri replied. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Chad nodded. "What did I say about that?" Shuri snapped. "Sorry, thank you, Shuri." Chad grinned. The Queen and the new protector watched as guards came and arrested Bakoye, as they watched as the city came to life as the sun rose on the city once more. Thank you everybody for listening to this video and checking out the stories. Of course, there are plenty more where that came from. I encourage you to check out the rest of this channel where you'll find more storylines for you to delve into. But there's even more than that. If you check out the description down below, you will find a whole array of different Tiger Tales channels. Each Tiger Tales channel is made for a specific purpose and hosts a whole array of different types of storylines. So I encourage you to check out the other Tiger Tales channels and delve into a massive amount of storytelling by myself and the Tiger Tales partners. If you have enjoyed it yourself today, then please subscribe to the channel, as it does show your support. Now, of course, the whole reason why I'm doing this is because I'm passionate about story writing and storytelling. And, of course, you should dive into what you are passionate about as well. So, I shall end this video with roll with passion.
That before we can...
Don't touch my Pringles.
Bye!